Welcome back. Today you're gonna find out our top 3 melee DPS. Partially through all of the time, mostly in the current present day in the War Within. We have to have some nuance of, tradition and historical, specs that have been our favorites, but also like the most important thing we're gonna address here is how they do, how they feel, how they play. Are they fun? Are they what we were looking for
sure.
in the War Within? We're gonna start off with Flame's first top 3
My
DPS,
first ones.
and I'm gonna be a fan of it as well. What is it, Flame?
Sure. So my first DPS, the most favorite melee DPS ever since they butchered arms is Enhancement Shaman.
Enhancement!
Dude, I've had a close love relationship with Enhancement. It's been my first ever tune that I've leveled up to level 60 back in vanilla.
That explains a lot.
It's the one that I've played the most. I can tell you all of the quests for all of the shamans in the old WoW, how you get the totems, what paths you have to climb in Durotar to find the fire totem and then get the earth one in the water one in Asheville. I know it, okay? I know it. What? You don't have World of Warcraft yet? No problem. You can buy it cheap on Kinguin. What? You want to play 1,337 other games too? No problem. You can buy them quick on Kinguin. Kinguin is an online platform that offers games, prepaid cards, and gift cards at much lower prices, whether they be for WoW or even game time. Click the link down below and use our code MARCE, that's M-A-R-C-E, for an 8% discount. Thank you, Kinguin. I know all of it. I love the fantasy. And going into the War Within, and although Dragonflight did build up on this with the rework, with the talents as well, because it was very good in Dragonflight, but now in the War Within, it feels like it's coming full circle. It feels like they've learned from the design in Dragonflight and they're just polishing it up every season, every patch a little bit more. And in terms of the actual gameplay of it, which is probably what people would be more interested in, it has some of the most fun impact moments. Like, you can play all sorts of builds, but in the end, you're going to be building up that Maelstrom weapon to a big payoff, big spender, which is what you want in WoW. You want to see that like, oh, it's coming, and then it, boom, it hits, dude. The thunder strikes,
server crashes.
Oh my god!
People yelling. Oh my god! Is that Flame on Enhancement Shaman? No.
Well, Flame on Thunder Shaman. When the lightning strikes, man, with the sound effects and the animations, and they're getting even more animations in the 11.05. Actually, they just got it because you're watching this after the patch has also hit. Not to mention the damage is incredible.
Yeah, we have to mention this. Like, performance-wise, Enhancement is sort of like a meta spec. I would kind of call it a meta spec because
it's statistically it's doing
the
best melee in
really
some content.
Yeah, so it's there. I mean, if you only care about damage, DPS meters, well,
Enhancement is your boy, and it does embody all of the metal, the thrall, all of the fantasy of Warcraft, because it's been kind of like one of the poster boys of Warcraft for a very long time. Whenever you look at screens, whenever you look at
Chris Metzen, imagine, although he does play a paladin,
interesting. Is that gonna come back into the video? I don't know.
Nobody knows about these things.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, like if people want to get into Enhancement Shaman and look at your footage and see the multitude of buttons there, is it easy to get into, or is it like big journey to like?
Actually, it actually has. I don't know if it had it before, but now it has a very simple build that you can get into that takes away a lot of the button bloat that you have. That makes it so intimidating, and it does a lot of damage. Just probably a little bit behind the meta, but that's not important when you can actually eliminate the barriers of entry for coming to Enhancement. That's the full Storm build. It's degenerate and fun because
you love it.
You don't press any fire or frost abilities. You just go full lightning, and you Storm Strike, Crash, Lightning, Spend. That's like 3 or 4 buttons, and that's about it.
But I always felt like it has so many procs. For me, that was like something, sometimes not a turn off, but it was frightening because you have a lot of procs on Enhancement, and there should be like a big list of priorities, right?
It does have a lot of procs. It's one of the shiny abilities that, oh my god, this button light up, and you would want to press it. You kind of have to press it well, but even if you press it wrong, you deal a lot of damage. And what's cool about it is you can actually be on a journey of like, oh, I was pressing things that were shining on my bar. Now I know how to press them, and you always do more and more and more and more damage, and it feels like you are actually improving as a player. It feels like you're in an RPG. It's like, oh, I'm a better Enhancement Shaman now if you end up picking it, and it's it's going to be obvious. You know how to play your enhancement once you get the gist of the priorities and the procs.
I get it. But what about the hero talents? Are you like super satisfied with the hero talents? Like
I was very critical of the initial implementation because they were very boring.
They were shit.
And they were very passive. And they've improved them, and they've improved them again in 11.05. And now it's come full circle where Stormbringer is the embodiment of the storm. It's basically the cinematics with the lightnings and the maelstroms, and all of it shoots down. And when you have multiple lightning rods, which is, you know, how you debuff a target after you use your spender, every time you use a lightning spell, every lightning rod target gets struck by lightning. So it's lightning storms and fantasy all around.
The meat of feedback on enhancement is ridiculous.
It's basically what every person that says, oh, I want updated visuals for my class is actually wanting to be an Enhancement Shaman.
So what we're looking at here, Enhancement Shaman is top melee DPS.
Top melee for me, but what about for you?
Well, I don't know. What could it be? Of course it's going to be Unholy Death Knight, right?
Surprise.
I mean, you know, you have to, when you play Paladin for so long, if you know the Arthur stories, that's basically me.
It's the full journey. I was a red main.
I used to be a red main. Yes, now I'm a giga fanboy of Unholy Death Knight, all right?
Arthaselian.
Arthaselian.
Arthaselian. Got a new DK name.
But listen, Unholy DK is easy to get into. I'll just start off with that. Like people are afraid. It's like, oh my god, it's complicated. The ramp. No, it's not that complicated anymore. Plus, it's a lot less punishing if you do mess it up. So don't worry about that. If you want to like do giga chat damage and be like on top of it all the time, it gets really in-depth, and you have to like give it a lot of practice, study, and improvement to get where it could be. It has a lot of potential, let's call it like that. Now, if you're a Mythic Plus player, you're gonna love Unholy, right? I mean, Frost, all due respect to Frost, you know, they do okay, they do amazing damage, but Frost will never be able to compare if like the tank pulls 3 packs, 5 mobs each, so you're looking at 15 mobs. Frost will not be able to handle that. That's it. Unholy Death Knight, because of it being the only spec in the game with quadratic scaling.
What's quadratic scaling?
Well, it basically, I cannot explain it like Biceps does, because he's like a scientist, engineer or something.
Yeah, he's a scientist, works at NASA.
The damage that you deal to your first wounds then goes on the other mobs that have wounds, and the damage, and that also amplifies to the other ones. It's basically a multiple amplification of the
chain reaction of disease.
Basically a chain reaction,
pustules and pus.
Yes. So when that happens, basically, right, you have that moment where, okay, you're building up, you pop your cooldowns, you do a little ramp up, right? And you don't see the immediate feedback, as opposed to like Enhanced Shaman, where, you know, you can see that meat in front of you. For Unholy, most of the times, you have to like do your little build up, right? And nothing happens. But then, after a couple of seconds, you start seeing the numbers popping up.
That's what's up. I see the DPS being all red. I was like, am I playing in the same game?
It's crazy, because like once the ball starts rolling, it doesn't stop. You have now so many resources. Like sometimes it feels like, oh my god, I don't have enough time to use all my resources. That's an amazing feeling.
It's a great feeling. Speaking of resources, I know that Unholy has like a lot of tools to play with, like pets and stuff. Like what kind of builds, if I want to get back into Unholy, what kind of builds can I get into?
Cool thing is now you actually have 2 builds you can go for in both scenarios. You remember, it's like it was pretty set in stone, especially at the beginning. You had this build for Mythic Plus, this build for Raid, that's it. Well, it's different. You have like 2 builds. You have the Festering Sight build, which is the easier build, by the way. You just go in and you do damage.
That's basically Unholy.
It's no ramp, okay? You have the standard build, which is like a little bit more complicated, because you have to like execute it properly, and you make sure like with Vile Contagion, spreading all the wounds and stuff. So it's a matter. This is the thing. If you want to do some more boss damage, you go for the standard build.
All right.
If you want to go for like annihilating packs, you go for Festering Strike, because that will deal, like Biceps did 12 million or something.
Jesus, that's so many millions. That's why I don't have the millions.
I don't see that.
Yes, the millions.
Yeah, the raid being like 6 bosses that have cleave and stuff. So you go for Super Strain, and for the, I don't know, Kiveza and Sikran, I think the only single targets you go for Commander of the Dead, which basically is the same build, but you don't use Epidemic. You just have more buffed up Abomination and minions.
Oh, Abominations are the best.
Yeah, but you're looking at it, the fantasy of Unholy Death Knight is so spot on, especially with the hero talents as well. And I'm not talking necessarily about Satellite, but Rider of the Apocalypse. I mean,
That is the Death Knight. That is the...
Yes.
As a Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3 enjoyer, those were the first Death Knights. On the horse, charging in, the unstoppable death.
Yeah.
I can see it, and I'm like, why am I always so squishy?
It's not the thing anymore. Like Unholy Death Knights, you know, apart from the fact that they're like super tanky, super sustainy, they also have like, you have anti-magic shell. You can cheese so many things, both in dungeons and in the raid. It's ridiculous. That's advance packed up into like death charge. Basically, you have a mobility boost plus a negation for any knockback, slow, whatever. It's so, sometimes I feel like, man, this is a little bit too strong.
This is basically a I don't give a fuck class.
Yeah, but it wasn't the case, you know, up until the War Within, right? So performance-wise now, Unholy is not like top tier, you know, the best in the game, but it is in the top DPS in the dungeons.
We can see it everywhere.
Yeah, it's there, and also in the raids. Like it's in the top echelon in the raids. I do want to mention that I am almost, I'm 95% sure MDI will see Unholy Dead Knights
that would be
because
so
of the
cool.
big pulls. You're gonna see BFA style stuff.
I
that's how it
miss the
does.
BFA Unholy,
I mean, imagine,
man.
did you see any spec currently in the game pulling off 12 million damage in a pack?
It's true. Unholy is in a league of its own, and it's been a journey for you coming to Unholy from your roots.
Unholy is basically the it embodies the opposition of
final
the paladin, right? It's everything that a paladin is not in terms of fantasy. Okay, so we have to put this one on the list on our top 3 melee DPS.
The third spec makes the list, and paladin, and I think it deserves a lot of things. But you were so attached to this spec for a long time.
Red Paladin. We're talking about Red Paladin.
Of course. What brings you to like this spec so much? What do you think is so good?
Well, first of all, just disclaimer here. We have to put it here because we both love the spec so much throughout the years.
For sure.
It has to be here. Now, I always loved Red Paladin, and this is something that it retains till this day because it has the support role built into it. I always loved that. Sure, it deals damage, fantasy, you heal, whatever. But the fact that you had always had these tools to support your team, cleanses, freedoms, buffs, lay on hands, bubble and taunt, like a lot of cool things. That's what I always love. I always love to play a DPS spec that can also be of much more use in your party. That being said, I'm not the biggest fan of the current iteration of Red. I love the rework they did in Dragonflight. I think they went a little bit too far. And I'm still waiting for the day where we would have a build where you would manage expurgation dots and also Divine Hammer being a thing. That's what I'm waiting for. So I see the potential.
Sure.
But the fact that it was, for me, it was the love of my life in the game for so many years, it could have not be in this list.
Yeah, no, I think as much as I love enhancement, I think Red in terms of design is one of the most perfect design melee DPS specs in the game.
Perfect.
In the way that it has tools to deal with what WoW has to throw at you. You talked about all of the utility that it brings, which is very helpful. You can actually build your paladin to handle different types of situations, with healing your parties, with providing more tankiness to yourself, with handling, this dungeon has this one particular route, just take Unbound Freedom and freedom yourself and your party.
Amazing.
But the coolest thing for me is basically the fantasy and how they're building more onto it. Because although I loved Paladin for the longest time, it didn't really feel like Red had a place in the lore. We had Holy Paladins more than anything with Uther and all of that stuff.
But what about Lady Liadrin?
Well, she's actually the embodiment of protection, right? She's been,
She's red!
Actually, that's one of my favorite paladins in the lore, from going through, this misguided blood elf, siphoning the power of the Naru, and then coming back and finding redemption, right? But red was never really cool up until recently in terms of like how it actually feels when I hop into it. It feels like I'm actually the embodiment of justice and retribution.
Wait a minute. What was Tyrion then?
Tyrion, it felt like it was.
That's a red paladin.
He was a cool character. He would have been cool no matter what paladin he was.
But he was a red paladin.
He was a red paladin.
Hashbringer in his hand. That's not a prod. That's not a holy. That's a red paladin.
I do have to say he was really cool in the fight in the Lights Hope Chapel against Arthas.
What are you talking about, baby?
So
don't you tell me there's no red paladins in the lore.
Now with Templar and Herald of the Sun, it definitely feels like they're actually coming. I was never really a big fan of the Sun theme for paladins.
Me neither.
But now it feels like it makes a little bit more sense. They're you're playing more into it, and now you're burning enemies around you.
It makes more sense because of the war within.
Yes,
basically,
that's why.
And that's cool. I can respect that much more than I can respect Thor and Paladins. But that's a different topic.
For sure, but that's what I mean. The war within actually makes Red Paladin in terms of a fantasy and a class feel way better, and the playstyle feels way better. Not to mention that Anduin finally finding his mojo.
Dude, Anduin is going to become a Red Paladin. He's on that journey. Believe you me.
Yeah, basically like Turalian, but from the priest side. He kind to embrace the war.
Yeah, but at this point, I really feel there's some things within the talent tree that can be a lot
It has so
better.
much potential, dude.
It's there. This is why I'm putting it in this list. It has the potential to be, once again, both our main. Can you imagine us walking into a Red Paladin?
God, whenever they bring Divine Hammer into the fold and Templar strikes again,
That's it. That's it. But these are our top 3, all right? So we have Enhancement Shaman, Unholy Decay, and Red Paladin. And by no mistake, these are also like very much historical for us. Except maybe Unholy Decay for me, because I only started it in Dragonflight. But since then, I never stopped playing it. Truth be told, Flame knows. I never stopped playing it. It's
I cannot get him to heal for shit.
No, I'm healing. Shut up. That's a different video. Question is, though, what is your top 3 melee DPS? And it can be from the current meta, current state of the game, and we can also be like of all time. It could be like both of them. Just let us
surprise us in the comments.
And if you want to see like the proper meta rankings or whatever, like the proper tier list for all melees, make sure to check out this video, and you're gonna get all the details there.
It's probably on my face, the video, huh?
Yes. Enjoy and click.
My face.
Click and enjoy. Bye.